Hey, so in today's lesson, you are going to learn 10 ways that you can sound more professional, be more professional when you communicate in English. Now, I want to be clear, this is not 10 things to say. This lesson is about 10 things that you can do, 10 practices that you can implement into your life, into your work, so that you can sound more professional all the time, not just when you use certain phrases, all right? As well, I have something super special to share with you at the end of today's lesson, so make sure that you watch until the end, and let's get started. Okay, so the first way that you can sound more professional and be more professional when you communicate in English is to watch your tone, okay? To choose the right tone, to use the right tone. And if you have been watching my lessons, you've probably heard me mention tone before, because tone is super important in English communication, especially if you want to sound professional. So first of all, what is tone? Tone is the feeling that you give to other people when you speak or when you write, okay? It's the feeling that you create for other people, the people who are receiving your message. This is your tone, all right? So your tone can be polite, it can be professional, it can be aggressive, it can be impatient. Your tone can be lots of different things, but it's basically up to you to be careful and to choose the right tone for each situation, okay? So let me give you an example of this so you really understand this concept of tone. A lot of times I receive comments and messages online of people saying, how can you make my English better? How can you improve my English? Okay, and I actually understand, of course, I'm an English teacher, I understand that they are asking, how can you help me to improve my English? But they're using the wrong tone to ask this question, okay? So if you say, how can you improve my English? Okay, how can you make my English better? The tone is wrong or a little bit aggressive or rude because it sounds like this person is entitled. This person sounds like it's my duty or my obligation to make their English better, that I have to do the work to improve their English, okay? Even though that's probably not what they mean to say. They don't mean to be rude. They don't want to be rude, of course. They just want to ask about how they can improve their English. The tone sounds rude or aggressive in this case, okay? So I just want to be clear that, of course, it's okay to ask a teacher, how to improve certain things. Absolutely, that's okay. But the tone of voice is very important. You never want to sound entitled, you never want to sound rude, you never want to sound aggressive, okay? So using the right tone is very important. If something is urgent, if something is important, there is a right way and a wrong way to say that to someone, okay? You don't want to put pressure on people and stress them out. So always think about how the other person will feel when they read your message or when they hear whatever you have to say, okay? And that way you can adjust your tone. So the very first thing, watch your tone and make sure that you use the right tone for the right situations. So the second way to sound more professional when you communicate in English is by being polite and diplomatic, okay? Polite and diplomatic. So first, let's talk about being polite. Remember that not everything is polite in every language, okay? So something that is polite in your language might not necessarily be polite in English, okay? Sometimes when you are too direct, this is seen as a little bit rude or impolite in English, so be careful with that, okay? Let me give you an example. Imagine that you need help from a colleague or you need help from someone at work, okay? And you say, I need help, can you help me, or help me please. Even though these sentences are grammatically correct, they sound a little bit rude and a little bit direct in English, okay? So you could be more polite by saying, would you mind helping me when you have a sec? Would you mind helping me when you're free? Would you be able to help me with this when you have a chance, okay? So this is just a nicer, more polite way to ask for help. Also keep in mind that nobody likes rude people. Nobody wants to work with rude people. Nobody wants to hire rude people. Nobody likes rude customers, all right? So if you are rude, this is just unprofessional in English. So you need to find polite ways of saying things. And please and thank you are not enough, okay? Please and thank you are not enough. You need to use polite questions, indirect questions, especially when you are making a request, okay? I have another lesson about indirect questions. I'll link it down below for you. So if you want to learn more about that, you can watch that lesson, okay? Now let's talk about being diplomatic. What does diplomatic mean? Being diplomatic means saying things in a way that doesn't hurt people's feelings and doesn't offend people, okay? So for example, imagine that a colleague of yours has an idea and you think it's a terrible idea, okay? Rather than saying, this is such a bad idea, this idea is ridiculous, this idea will not work, this is not really diplomatic, okay? Instead, you need to say it in a way that's not gonna hurt them. So you could say something like, perhaps we could try this, or have you thought about this, or this might be a better idea, or this might work better for the customer. What do you think? Okay, so being polite and diplomatic. Okay, so the third way to be more professional is to adjust your level of formality, adjust how formal you are. So being professional doesn't mean being extremely formal all the time. You need to decide how formal to be depending on who you're talking to, depending on the situation, okay? So when you are talking to your customers, to your clients, to your colleagues, to your boss, how formal you are or how informal you are will be different, okay? So just understanding this concept that being super formal all the time is not going to make you sound professional, because if you're too formal in a casual situation, you'll actually end up making people uncomfortable. So generally speaking, in business, we are quite neutral. Of course, in certain industries, you need to be more formal. In certain situations, you need to be more formal, but it's up to you to understand when you need to be more formal. When is it expected? When is it going to make you look good? When is it going to make you look bad? When is it going to make people uncomfortable, all right? So adjust how formal or how informal you are depending on the situation. Okay, so the fourth way that you can sound more professional in English is by organizing your ideas. You must organize your ideas. Now, in every situation, whether you are writing an email, talking on the phone, giving a presentation, explaining something, answering interview questions, in every situation, your ideas must be organized so that the other person can understand you, okay? So generally you need some kind of opening, middle section, and end section. An introduction, a body, a conclusion, whatever you want to call it, your ideas must be organized, okay? Because imagine that you have an amazing product or an amazing idea and you're trying to explain it to someone or sell it to someone and they just don't get it, right? Then unfortunately, your idea is lost, or your idea just kind of stays inside your head and no one else gets to hear it. That's not going to help you professionally. It's not going to help you in terms of business, all right? So imagine that you've come up with an idea for a great product or a great service and you want to pitch the idea or sell the idea to someone. You need to be able to say, this is what I have, this is how you use it, and this is why you need to buy it, okay? You need to organize your sales pitch, your idea, into clear sections. So super important to learn how to organize your ideas in every single situation. Sometimes these 3 sections are going to be longer, sometimes they're going to be shorter. It doesn't matter as long as your listener or your reader is able to follow along your ideas, okay? So you can ask other people to help you with this. Let's say you're writing an email or a report, or you're writing a story, whatever the case is, you can ask someone who has never seen it before to look at it and tell you if it's clear or if it's not clear, okay? If it's not clear, you need to reorganize it. Okay, so number 5 is to master industry-specific vocabulary. Vocabulary that is specific to your industry, okay? Now, I've said this before and I will say it again, probably a million more times, that not everyone needs to know everything. And I really want to stress this point. Not everyone in the world needs to know everything. You do not need to know vocabulary about every single thing in the world, things that you're never going to talk about, but you do need to know vocabulary that is relevant to you and relevant to your job to sound more professional, okay? So this would include technical vocabulary, technical terms, but also jargon and slang and expressions that people in your industry use a lot, okay? Expressions and words that you read a lot, that you hear a lot, that you notice other people using. You need to master this vocabulary so that when you are having conversations, when you are reading, when you are writing, you are able to interact, to communicate with confidence, and you're using language that people in your industry understand and relate to. This will help you to sound more professional. Okay, so number 6 is to learn common phrasal verbs, idioms, and expressions that you can use in the world of business, that you can use at work. Okay, so after you have mastered the language that you need for your industry, for your job, the next step is to learn common idioms, common phrasal verbs, common expressions that people use in conversations in the world of business, okay? So for example, let's get the ball rolling, okay? Or I want to get things off the ground as soon as possible. Or I can get you up to speed on what you've missed, or things are really picking up, okay? So if you don't know what these phrasal verbs and these idioms mean, don't worry, I do have other lessons about phrasal verbs and idioms for business, and I will link them down below so you can watch them after this lesson, okay? But again, learning common phrasal verbs, idioms, and expressions that you can use in your conversations will help you to sound more professional because these are very common and natural in the world of business. Number 7 is to be concise, okay? Be concise. Now, concise just means short and to the point, okay? Not too long. Now, time is money in the world of business. I'm sure you've heard this expression, time is money. And you don't want to waste people's time and you don't want to waste people's money because this is unprofessional and they won't do business with you again, all right? So keep your message concise if you can. There are times that, of course, you need to explain things in more detail. You require a longer presentation, a longer explanation, a longer email, and that's okay. But everyday communication, everyday messages, simple things, try to keep them concise, try to keep them short and to the point. Okay, so the next way that you can sound more professional is to keep it simple. Sometimes people believe that complicated grammatical structures, complicated vocabulary, complicated things are more professional or seem more professional, or that you can trick people or fool people and make them think that you're more professional than you are. And that is just not the case, okay? Generally speaking, in English, simple communication is more effective, okay? So think about huge corporations, huge successful businesses like Apple and Google, products and services that we use on a daily basis. We like these things because they are simple. They are simple and easy to understand, yet we see them as extremely professional, right? So don't try to trick people and use complicated sentences, complicated words, complicated things when you don't need to. This is not going to make you sound or seem more professional. It might just be confusing for your listener or your reader. So when you can, keep your message simple. Number 9 is to brush up on your grammar. Now, brush up just means to review it and to make it a little bit better. Now, I'm not telling you to run out and buy a grammar book or study grammar from A to Z or study grammar 5 hours a day. What I am telling you to do is to identify your mistakes or your weaker areas with grammar and then work on those specific areas, okay? So for example, if you have difficulty with past tenses or present perfect tenses when you're speaking and when you're writing, it's worth reviewing those specific grammar points to make sure that you get them right, okay? Especially when you are writing, you have time to look at what you've written, to correct your mistakes, to review your grammar. And if you're not sure if what you've written is grammatically correct, all you have to do is check on Google. Okay, you just have to type it into Google and check if it's correct. It's very, very simple. You can use grammar checking tools as well. So again, you don't need to study grammar inside out, day in and day out, but you do need to work on the areas that you have difficulty with. Okay, so if it's one specific verb tense, just focus on that verb tense. And that will help you to sound more professional overall. And number 10 is to change your basic vocabulary into business vocabulary, okay? So think about the words that you use, the phrases that you use on a regular basis at work, things you already know and things you already use. Take those things and try to make them a little more polished and a little more professional, okay? So for example, instead of saying, I will think about it or I have to think about it, you can say, I will consider it. Okay, I will consider. So instead of saying think about, you can say consider, all right? Instead of saying we need to check this, you can say we need to revise this. So we're just changing the verbs in these sentences to sound a little bit more polished, a little bit more formal, okay? Not extremely formal, not extremely complicated. Just one little change makes this sentence more professional, okay? You can also learn some linking words, some connecting words. For example, instead of saying and, you could say in addition, additionally, furthermore, as well as. Okay, so there are lots of little changes you can make from your basic everyday language to sound more polished, to sound more professional. So there you have it, 10 practical, realistic ways that you can sound more professional in English. Now, at the beginning of this lesson, I told you that I have something extra special for you, and I did not forget. I want to invite you to join the Business English Week for free with myself and teacher Tiffany from the Speak English with Tiffany Academy. Now, the Business English Week is a free online event. There are 4 classes, and myself and teacher Tiffany are going to help you master the skills that you need to get the job you want and to grow professionally. So to register, all you have to do is click the link below this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I will answer them for you. So as always, thank you so much for watching and for learning with me, and I'll see you soon in the Business English Week.